Today, we're going to be looking at some really cool custom Plants vs. Zombies plushes that I found, as well I've looked on a couple of different websites, mostly eBay and Etsy, and well, I've actually found some really cool ones. As well, there's actually a lot of unique custom Plants vs. Zombies plushes out there, so I'm going to be going over a couple of them today, starting off with the pumpkin. Now, as you know, a pumpkin plush was never released, as well literally no company ever made a pumpkin plush, including bootleg companies. As well, there was supposed to be one officially licensed pumpkin plush made by World Max, but sadly, this is the only image that we have of it, as well it was cancelled, and the only time we ever saw it was on the Hong Kong Toy Fair. And well, since then we've never seen it, so having this custom pumpkin plush is actually really good, as well we actually have no other plushes. As well, literally, if you want a pumpkin plush, you either have to make your own custom or buy a custom, as well there's literally no pumpkin Plants vs. Zombies plushes that exist. And well, for this one, it actually looks pretty good. It seems to be really nicely stuffed and everything, and all the embroidery is accurate to the game. As well, if you look at the mouth and the eyes and everything, it's really good. It's nicely embroidered on. It seems to be pretty high quality, especially for a custom. As well, from what I can tell, basically all the details on the face are perfectly accurate to the game, and while it also seems to be pretty big on the inside of it, so it could actually hold other plushes. As well, as you can tell, the inside of it's hollow, so you can put other plushes in there, which is something that you basically need for a pumpkin plush, so yeah, overall, it's really nice. And well, I'm not sure who originally made this custom pumpkin plush. I don't really know where you could get it, as well, there is one listing on eBay, but it's extremely overpriced and it's from a reseller. So you probably shouldn't buy that one, but yeah, I don't really know where this one comes from, but now we're going to be moving on to the Scaredy-shroom. And well, once again, just like the pumpkin plush, the embroidery on this one's really high quality, as you can tell by the eyes and the eyebrows, as though they're accurate to the game and everything, and they look great for a custom plush. And well, for the actual shape of the Scaredy-shroom's head, it's accurate to the game and everything, as well the color of it looks pretty nice, so it could actually stand up a little better, but because of the cap on the top of it, it can't really stand up that well. As you can tell by this image, it needs to be held up by something. And while the mouth on this plush also looks pretty good, as well as correctly shaped and everything, it just seems to be embroidered onto the rest of the face, and it looks nice. So yeah, overall, the head on this plush is pretty good, and for the actual cap, it also looks nice, as well the eyebrows are pretty nicely embroidered on, and the actual shape of it's pretty good. The only thing that's sort of weird about the cap is that the back of it, for whatever reason, is sort of weirdly shaped, and also, for whatever reason, on the bottom of the cap, there's this weird ring thing around it. I don't really know why that's there. But besides that, the rest of it looks pretty nice as well. The dots on the cap and everything overall look pretty good, and it's accurate to the game, and the only really bad thing about this plush is that it's sort of 2D for some reason. As well, if you look from a different angle on the plush, you can sort of tell that the eyes are facing really weirdly, as well for whatever reason, you can only really see one good angle of this plush. And I don't really know why they did that, as well on the back of the plush it just looks really bad, but on the front it looks really good, so I don't really know why the creators of the plush did this, and it ends up making the plush look pretty weird. But yeah, overall, for the front of the plush, it looks pretty nice and everything, and while it's overall a pretty accurate Scaredy-shroom plush, and same thing like the pumpkin, I don't really know where you could get this one. Now, next we're going to be moving on to some plushes that you can find on Etsy, starting off with a pumpkin squash. Now, for the actual shape of the squash, it overall looks really good, as well as nicely stuffed and everything. It has also the correct shape, and it also has all the correct lumps on it to make it look more accurate to the game, and while the stem also looks great. As well, there's some extra green things coming off of the stem, which is once again accurate to the game, and it seems to be a really high quality plush. As well, it seems to be made out of a really high quality plush material, while all the details on the face are made out of plush material as well, instead of just being made out of felt material, making it better. And while there's actually a lot of detail on the eyes and everything, as well, it uses a lot of different colors just to make all the details stand out a little differently, and while the eyes also have some extra plush material on the top of them just to make them stick out of the head a bit more, to give it a bit more detail, and same thing with the nose. And while the mouth on this plush also looks pretty good, and it actually has a candle inside of the mouth just to give it a bit more detail, and I think they did a great job with that one, as well the candle shape and everything looks really good, and I also like how they did the little flame on the top of it, and the actual mouth has the same thing as the eyes, where there's some extra plush material to give it a bit more definition. And while the mouth is correctly shaped and everything, and once again it's accurate to the game, so yeah, overall the pumpkin squash is actually really good. So yeah, this plush is currently for sale on Etsy, and I think it's actually a really good one to get, as all the details and everything are really high quality, and it looks perfectly accurate to the game. And well, the same seller also made a frozen squash, which basically uses the exact same pattern for all the details and everything, except they just added a lot more. As well, the actual shape of the squash and all the lumps on it and everything are the exact same as the pumpkin squash, except they added a ton of details to it. As well, the hat on this plush is overall really nicely shaped and everything, and it's a really cool detail that they added. And they also added a bunch of berries around the plush, as well, as you can tell, there's some berries on the top and on the bottom of the plush, and while the leaves on them are really nicely made, as well, there's some embroidery in the middle of the leaves just to give it a bit more detail, and they're also nicely shaped and everything, and they're well stuffed. And well, for the eyebrows and eyes on this plush, I used this dark blue material, which looks really nice. And well, once again, just like the pumpkin squash, there's some also different shades of blue on it, just to give it a bit more detail. I think it makes it look really nice. And well, the nose on this plush is just a carrot, and once again, it's really nicely stuffed and well shaped. And well, there's also some dark blue embroidery on the bottom of the plush. I don't really know what that's supposed to be, but it's still there. And for the mouth on this plush, is really nicely stuffed and everything, and it's wide open. It uses the exact same shape as the pumpkin squash, and once again, it's just really nicely stuffed. And this mouth is a little bigger than the pumpkin squash for whatever reason, just to give it a different expression. So yeah, I think they did a great job with the frozen squash and also the pumpkin squash, as well. Both plushes look really high quality, and you could currently both get them on Etsy. Now next up we have the Citon from Garden Warfare 2, and while this plush actually looks really nice, as all the details on the face and everything are perfectly accurate to the game, such as the sunglasses and the eyebrows. And they seem to be made out of some normal plush material instead of being made out of a felt material, just to make it more accurate to the game. And while all the details on the head and everything are perfectly accurate, and the actual shape of the head is also really good. And while the gun on the side of him is also really nicely stuffed and everything, it's perfectly accurate to the game, just like all the other details on this plush. And for the coat on this plush, it also looks really nice. As well, there's some embroidery on the bottom of it just to give it a bit more detail. It just seems to be either glued on or embroidered onto the rest of the plush, so it's able to keep its shape and also look nice. And while the legs on this plush are also really nicely stuffed and everything, and they seem to be so well stuffed that it could actually stand up really well. As well, as you can tell by this image, nothing actually has to be held on this plush to make it stand up, which actually is really good, and also makes the plush just slightly better than it would be without that detail. So yeah, basically all the details on this plush are perfectly accurate to the game. I'm glad they made it so I could stand up, and once again, this one's for sale on Etsy. Now next up we have the God of Wealth plush, and well, this one actually seems to be based off of the Links in 2 God of Wealth, except this one's just slightly different. As well, the hat on this plush is actually fully made out of plush material instead of being made out of felt material, which actually makes it look slightly better in my opinion, as well I would rather plush material than felt material. It seems to be fully stitched onto the head instead of just being another part of the plush like the Links in 2 one. And well, for all the details on the face, they're basically the exact same as the Links in 2 one, as well the eyebrows and also the mustache are made out of a normal plush material, while the beard is made out of this really fuzzy one. I don't really know which material they use for their beard, but it looks pretty nice, and all the embroidery on the face and everything, like the mouth and the eyes, look really good. As well, they're basically perfectly accurate to the game and everything, and they got the expression on the God of Wealth really well, and they did a nice job with it. And well, for all the details that he's holding and everything, they also look basically perfectly accurate to the game. And once again, instead of just being made out of a felt material like the Links in 2 one, these ones are actually made out of a normal plush material. And while the actual coat on this plush is also accurate as well, it has a bunch of gold detail on the back of it, which I don't really know which material it's made out of, but it still looks pretty nice. And while for the rest of the plush is really nicely stuffed and everything, and it's also basically perfectly accurate to the game, so it looks really good. And well, honestly, it's a good substitute for the God of Wealth plush, as well, since the God of Wealth plush is extremely rare and also extremely expensive, this one might actually be a good plush to get. Now next up, we actually have 2 versions of the Chomper plush, being this first one and also the second one. Now, you can clearly tell that the second one is a lot more detailed than the first one, which is why we're going to be going over the first one first, as well, since it's less detailed, it'll take less time to go over. As all the details on this plush and everything look really good. The leaf base on this plush is nice as well. It actually has 4 leaves, unlike the majority of other Plants vs. Zombies plushes that only have 3 leaves. And while the leaves on this plush are correctly shaped and everything, they also have some embroidery on the middle of them, and the actual stem on this plush seems to be nicely stuffed, so it's able to make the plush stand up relatively well. And well, for the head on this plush, it basically has all the details that are needed, as well on the back of the head, you can tell that it basically uses the exact same leaves that were used for the leaf base, and they look really good. And well, for the spikes on the head, they're really nicely shaped and everything, and also really well stuffed, so they stay well stuffed and able to keep its shape and everything. And well, for the dots on the face, they seem to just be ironed on. As well, it's kind of hard to tell if they're either ironed on or just printed onto the face, but either way, they look pretty good. And well, for the mouth on this plush is perfectly accurate to the game. As well, all the teeth and everything are really nice. The tongue on this plush seems to have these weird colors on it, which are either ironed on or printed on. Once again, just like the dots on the head, I can't really tell which one it is, and while the actual shape of the mouth and everything looks really good, and it seems to hold up really well. So yeah, this is one of the most high quality Plants vs. Zombies plush customs I've ever seen, as well it actually seems to be very similar to the quality of some officially licensed companies like MCC. As well, it's actually pretty close to being the exact same quality as some officially licensed Plants vs. Zombies plushes, which makes it a really good custom. And while there's also this much bigger Chomper plush, and well, this plush is actually huge. As well, you can sort of tell by this image just how big it is. As well, it even needs its own separate stand on the bottom of it just to make it stand up. And well, you're probably wondering how much this plush costs, and it actually costs $670, and the smaller one costs $240. Which is an insane amount of money for a Plants vs. Zombies plush, but you have to understand that the Chomper plush is actually really big, and all the details and everything are basically perfect. As well, the leaf base on this plush looks really nice, as well the inside of the leaves are actually purple, and well, they're really nicely shaped and everything, and there's also some stems on the bottom of the plush. As well, as you can tell, there's some green stems that sort of curl around the leaves that look really good, and they also sort of curl around the main stem, and there also seems to be some green lumps on them, which are sort of like a greenish white material, and they look really nice. And well, the leaves on this plush are actually some of the best leaves I've ever seen out of Plants vs. Zombies plush, as well they're just really high quality and everything, and they look great. The actual stem on this plush is really nicely stuffed and everything, as well. Since it's such a long stem, it obviously needs to be well stuffed as well. It wouldn't be able to stand up without that. And while all the leaves on the back of the head look really good, it's sort of hard to tell by this image, but it seems that they look very similar to the bottom leaves, except they're just not as big, obviously, and they don't have the purple inside of them. Though it is sort of hard to tell, as well they seem to be correctly shaped and everything, and they look pretty nice, and for the actual face on this plush, it looks great. It also uses some spots on the head that once again look pretty good, and just like the other Chomper plush, I can't really tell if they're either ironed on or just printed onto the face. But either way, they look pretty good, and while the detail used for the spikes on the top of the head are the exact same thing for the teeth, except they just use pink on the bottom of them instead of just using a purple color. And while the actual shape of the mouth and everything also looks pretty good, and the tongue on this plush is either a purple or a darker purple color, and well, it looks great. As well, it's correctly shaped, and it just seems to be fully made out of a plush material, so it looks really good, and this plush is giant. As well, obviously, for almost $700 plush, obviously it'll be extremely high quality and everything, and also really big. And while both of these Chomper plushes, the small one and the big one, are both on Etsy, and you can both get them there. So yeah, those were all the custom Plants vs. Zombies plushes I found for this video. Comment down below which of these plushes are your favorite, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like and subscribe, and have a great day.